out and bowl defensively. And you also need to be careful with your computer's defense as well. If you need a VPN, go Nord. NordVPN.com/Kimber to get a 2-year contract with a discount, plus 4 extra months and gifts in some markets. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The link is in the show notes. So put in some dot balls and turn them into maidens via NordVPN.com/Kimber. Welcome to the Scoreboard. I'm just finishing the wagon wheel, so like in my brain, I still have my podcasty brain on. But yeah, we're here, and we're going to do some shows as normal. I'm not nailing this yet, am I? But yeah, we'll work it out. I'll get there in a minute. I've completely lost the template that I'm sure Muku wants me to press, but Muku's not here, so he's not. I'm on my own. Anyway, let's get to the show. And the games from last night. So, Papua New Guinea against New Zealand. No, Papua New Guinea versus... Yeah, it was against New Zealand. What am I saying? This is the Lockie Ferguson game, of course. And Ishodi managed to go for runs in this. Again, we see, losing their best players too early. And they really don't have... They can bat around good players. Guys like... Amini, Sese Bao, Doriga, but they really do need their better players to make runs. And I don't know how many runs Tony Euro made in this tournament, but it wasn't enough. And so, again, we see a situation where a lot of guys can chip in, but they don't have that one player who's putting a lot of pressure on. Lockie Ferguson went for no runs. He went for no runs in 4 overs. It was just too fast for Papua New Guinea. I actually thought the first over, was it the first over? I thought they played him okay, but I couldn't see even at that stage how they were going to score off him. And he just completely locked them down overall. This game obviously doesn't matter a lot, but just to point out again, not ideal that Ishodi still went 4 runs. And these are the most economical spells in T20 internationals ever. And you can see a lot of these are lower levels of cricket, right? Some, poorer teams. This one was at a World Cup, even if it was against another associate team. Fantastic work from Lockie there. But that game, or that innings, no one cared all that much about. And then New Zealand made a bit of a mess of this chase. Again, we see, a team bowl out an associate and then not stumble, but just not be able to knock them away straight away. And eventually they managed to get some runs and finish off. But not how they would like to finish this tournament. Finally, though, they got some game time under Devon Conway, but it didn't matter. And Daryl Mitchell smacked a couple at the end. Poor Finn Allen looked dreadful in his 2 balls. Well, in his 1 ball there. Was it 1 ball or 2 balls? He wasn't around long. PNG bowlers, Maria did very well. They didn't really have anyone else. If they were gonna put any impact on it, would have been probably Neo at the start with him, and then poor Chad came on and got absolutely whacked. All right, that's the end of that game. And here we go. The best batting teams of the World Cup. And this is a rating based on true values. So we have Afghanistan at the top at the moment. So it's quite interesting that they come out on those values. But remember that a lot of that also has to do with who they made runs against. And you might be thinking, well, they haven't made a lot of runs, but a lot of their wickets have also been quite tough. This is the one I was shocked at. The West Indies, again, this kind of metric is going to mean a lot more later on in the tournament. But really interesting to see Scotland and the USA up so high down here. But as we've said a few times, Uganda struggle a little bit, and you can see there's quite a few teams down there that have poor batting lineups, and Sri Lanka. So this is a tough one to do because there's so many different kinds of wickets, and they have been, really brutal at times on general teams. And also, in Afghanistan's case, they've smacked around some poorer attacks. And so let's see how much that holds up by the end of the Super 8s. I think we'll see some pretty big changes in that one. And the best bowling teams of the tournament, well, again, Afghanistan and the West Indies. In this particular game, when we saw Afghanistan go up on a slightly better wicket, when there were runs in it, they went for some. But this is a really good sign for the West Indies. I think this is. I almost think it's more interesting from their perspective, and interesting that Canada is currently all the way down here in Canada. Well, Canada's last, but the USA is all the way down here in our ratings. So might be some big totals scored against them. And the West Indies runs per over in this game. Was there not a dot ball off a free hit in this over? If I remember correctly, back to my midnight stupor when this one was going on. Just Puran ridiculous hitting, putting a lot of pressure back on. And from that moment forward, it was going to be very, very tough. You feel for the bowler, of course, in that situation of and is that the second 36 run over we've had? Well, certainly the second 30 run over. We haven't had a lot, right? But I think Jeremy Gordon from Canada might have gone for a similar amount. But yeah, just to recount it, it was a 6. It was a 4 off a no ball. There was 5 wides. There was a dot ball off the extra ball. 4 leg byes, and then 4 6-6 in that one. And it really, you just look at this and you can just see how far back it put them at that stage. Puran batting up the order. But they don't capitalize on it massively. Like Afghanistan do well, but that's like 3 overs in one, right? Like it allows you some time. And then they really don't kick back in until the 16th over. And then they do score quite a lot of runs again on the back end. I suppose it's a spasmodic batting card, I would say, looking at that. Well, not batting card, but runs per over. And largely that was also because Puran made it 98 off 53. He was run out by the men. He hit all those runs off to Azmatullah. So he didn't quite get to his 100. So at least he had something come back. But it was really, he made the vast majority of those runs. Johnson Charles went quite hard. Robin Powell came in for a couple as well. And Shai Hope. And this is Puran's strike rate progression. This is something you don't see very often. This is obviously the period of that 36 run over. He really does work his way back all the way down to a strike rate of 137. And then he goes almost all the way back up to 2 runs a ball there. I just think they thought they had enough. But it's probably not exactly what you want to see from Puran in the future. It's a couple of times now I have seen him and I've thought, the team situation has dictated the bat's a bit slower. I'm wondering if after all those years of just whacking the ball everywhere and sometimes having years where he didn't average very much, he's thinking, I just need to bring the two closer together and make sure I have a consistently good average and a really good strike rate rather than the other way around. Nur Ahmed, he didn't really strike him, spinning away from him. Rashid Khan obviously got some treatment there. 37 runs in 16 balls, 3 sixes. Naveen he went after, but Omazai, of course, not particularly ideal there. 26 runs in 8 balls. Not ideal. Gulbadeen, legend. And Fazal Haq continues his good tournament, managing not to get whacked there. And this is Puran's true values by bowling type in all T20s. So you can see that a left arm wrist spin, although he doesn't face it that much, is not his preferred. He loves left arm finger spin and right arm wrist spin. He is very much a matchup player, but we know that he can go after quick bowlers, but he quite often plays within himself. All of these are plus, right? So even though these might look bottom left-hand corner, we should have put them on the graphic to show that they're all plus. So he's good against everything, but then he goes absolutely ballistic when you spin the ball back into him. Afghanistan bowlers, you can't stop the man. Gulbadeen. Interesting that Fazal Haq didn't take any wickets. And this was, something that I was a little bit worried about. He's taken so many wickets in this tournament. And I do think they need to continue to take the wickets. And actually, I want to take you back to something here. This is a period I really worry about Afghanistan because they should dominate in here. I don't think, unless Fazal Haq goes absolutely crazy, they're going to dominate up here all that much again. And I don't think they can stop teams here. So teams can afford to do what the West Indies did and play within themselves for a little while if they want to. And that's one of the weaknesses they have. Anyway, then Afghanistan battered. And to be honest, they started all right. But again, here's the other weakness that Afghanistan has. Once they lost both of their, so they lost, what's his name? Gobars on, what was the third ball? And then Gulbuddin came in as, I don't know what his role was, but he was 7 off 10. And Ibrahim goes out in the 8th over. So this is the point. That's the over I was looking for. This is the point they lose both their openers. This is what we've been worried about. And if you listen to the podcast we did with Bayram last night, this is kind of what I was talking about. We need to see the rest of their batters making runs. It's a big chase, and we completely understand it from that point of view. And Moti is a particularly hard player to score quickly against and everything else. And they had Akil Hassan and obviously a lot of the West Indian bowlers were taking wickets, and Big Obed slamming the ball into the middle wicket. I understand all that, but that is the difference between being a genuine chance of making it to the semi-finals and not. So I think in this game we saw both of their weaknesses come through. So the opposite should be said for the West Indies, which is we saw them regularly take wickets all the way through, which they have been all the way. So if they can keep doing that, they can put pressure on. And we saw their batters against good bowlers put on a good score. But yeah, you can see here, Ibrahim, Zadran, and then the rest. I think Omazai will eventually be a very good batter, but I still think he's a little bit hit and miss. These are lower order players. That's a pinch blocker, really. I still worry about their batting, I suppose is the best way of putting it. So Obed coming back in there, taking some wickets for them. So changes their lineup a little bit, I think, with Obed. Like, where's their full lineup here? That gives them 2 frontline seamers, and they don't have Romario Shepherd in that team. I wonder if that might be a slightly better one for them going ahead. Obed at his best is a very, very good wicket taker and a very good death bowler. It just have to get him at his best. But Akil Hassan, again, taking wickets. Modi, these two, they're both left-arm finger spinners, but they're obviously incredibly different. But also, they bowl at different times, so they go together quite well. They're also going to be at their absolute best against the right-handers, of course. Andre Russell not getting any wickets there, and Alzara Joseph, who's been taking a lot of wickets, also got a bit of tap there. And so Obed, we've got the 6 wickets back in 2022. You could see here just a very consistent wicket taker, and 2s, 3s, and 4s. He usually does that, and because of the back of the hand slower ball and the way he whacks the ball into the pitch, he kind of has 2 major, other than just being left arm and reasonably fast, he has 2 major advantages, I think, when he's bowling in that way. And the Super 8s. So we have our team mats for this World Cup so far. Oh, I love this. This is fantastic. Look how weird these teams are. Goodbye, Namibia. We're entering a completely different period here. So we have a batting team in the USA and a bowling team who's been very good, specifically batting outside of the power play. So South Africa's got nothing out of the power play. Some of that, of course, is playing on that wicket that they've been playing on. Is a big part of it. But you can see here, even though they've been playing in New York, they've actually been batting very well in the middle overs, not losing wickets, and generally not falling too far behind the rate. And then they've been fine at the death. But this is the kind of map that the New York wicket brings about. They've been poor in the power play. They need to fix this. This is an issue. Marco Janssen's bowled some good spells. Butman hasn't taken as many wickets as he wants. Rabada has been disappointing, right? Bowling in the middle, this is largely carried by Anrik Nortje. And then Shamsi bowled quite well in the last game. Maharaj has got some good figures, but hasn't bowled all that well. And they've been doing okay at the death. Well, very good at the death as well. And then we see the USA, which is entirely a batting team. There's almost no bowling here outside of the power play, which they've been good at in times. And then they really struggle as the innings goes on. And by the death, they're not particularly good. So they're batting in the middle. A lot of this, again, is Aaron Jones going ballistic, and Monank occasionally there as well. Was it Nitish in one of the other games? So they've had 2 or 3 guys do very well throughout the middle overs for them. And they've also done well at the death. But they're almost completely one side of the ball here, and they are traditionally a good power play bowling team. So I hope that holds up, but the rest of it is not quite as good. So we'll see how all that goes. I can't imagine there'll be too many questions on the scoreboard today because I just did a whole wagon wheel. But I'll take a quick break, and if there are any questions, we will get to them here. I'm Jared Kimber. This is the scoreboard, and I can't find my ads.
Occasionally, I also talk about behind-the-scenes stuff. A huge thanks to everyone who has supported us on Patreon and helped us build this channel. Join our Patreon community and unlock exclusive benefits. Enjoy AMAs, live calls with me, and connect with fellow cricket enthusiasts on Discord. Express your cricket fandom with Bodyline t-shirts. Discover their extensive range of player-inspired tees, featuring cricket legends such as Murali, Warne, and Wasim. With team-themed designs and options for hardcore cricket nerds, they've got you covered no matter what your interest in cricket is.
All right. Just a couple of questions and we'll finish up. Harsha says, do you use R or Python for generating those visuals? So we make the visuals on Canva. Almost all the visuals you see are either made on Canva or Flourish. But obviously a lot of the research is done in different ways. So we have Ashish and we have Varun, and me and Cheyenne both use, they both code, and me and Cheyenne both use Excel spreadsheets and spreadsheets in general for our stuff. Varun's not in the chat today, so which is very rare for him. RS Freak Gavaskar, in fact, says, is Adam Zampa's googly more effective because his leg break is also quite scrambled seam-wise? Yeah, a lot of players do that around the world now. That's quite common. I think he's quite effective because he doesn't lose as much pace on his wrong end as other bowlers, and also he doesn't get as much top spin in some cases. So him and Hasaranga just hit the stumps a lot. So their leg spinner can hit the top of off stump, and their wrong end can hit the bottom of leg stump. And in Hasaranga's case, he can really rip the ball sideways a little bit more. Zampa probably not like that, but Zampa probably has a better straight skiddy ball. So if you think of Zampa, he kind of has 3 different balls that can hit the stumps in slightly 3 different ways. And that's a really big advantage, I think, if you're a wrist spinner in modern T20 cricket. Keeping the stumps in play is so massive. Crickfeet says, what is a harder feat to achieve in T20 cricket? Ferguson's 4 maidens against PNG, or Narayan's maiden super over against Puran, or Yuvraj's 6 sixes against Broad? I would have thought Ferguson's 4 but it was against PNG. I would have thought Ferguson's 4 maidens, just because at one stage, like, he hit them on the pads a couple of times. Like, the ball could have easily just trickled off, or they could have stolen a run. I know they couldn't really get much bat on it, but you get an outside edge to third. The 6 sixes is going to happen more and more, and we've certainly seen that a lot in domestic cricket. And we'd seen that beforehand, right? Shastri and then Herschel Gibbs afterwards, and Sobers. The maiden super over against Puran. I've seen some weird stuff in super overs before, so I'm less surprised by that, I think. So, yeah, I don't know. For a fast bowler to bowl 4 maidens, I think is really, really tough. I think a spinner, because the ball doesn't rebound off their bodies as much, is more likely. Keshav said, Mott said England would have won the first fixture if not for rain, but given how Scotland played, would you have given them a chance to defend 109 against England in the first game? Yeah, I think most of us gave them a chance. I can't remember what the odds were in that. I'm pretty sure my money was on Scotland in that game at that stage. More to do with the odds, not thinking that England couldn't do it, but if I remember correctly, I probably backed Scotland early on once they started bowling spin to George Munsey. Is probably when I started backing them, if we're being honest. But yeah, that's what Mott's supposed to say, though. I mean, no one's taken that seriously. Greg Freak says, is Moti Hassan a better left-arm spin pair than Jadeja Akshar in T20 cricket currently, offering more variety, especially with the use of the seam? Yes. Now, that doesn't mean they're better bowlers, although, Gudakesh Modi might be a fantastic bowler in the next, his raw skills are ridiculous. But I don't think that means that they're better bowlers than Jadeja or certainly Akil Hussain is not a better bowler than either of those other two. And I don't think Moti will be, although I think he's fantastic as well. But the way that Jadeja and Akshar bowl, even though they are slightly different, is fairly similar. And they also probably both want to bowl in those middle overs. So straight away, Akil Hassan and Moti are very different kinds of left arm finger spinners. One is an attacking one and one is a defensive one. That's an advantage. And we've seen that, we've seen that with Scotland when they had their two left arm finger spinners before as well. That's quite handy. Where it gets even better for the West Indies, which was a problem for Scotland, is that Akil Hassan is really good with the new ball, right? And so he can bowl 2 overs in that power play anytime that they need him to, really. And Moti is going to bowl later on. And then Akil Hassan can, if needed, bowl towards the end. So the ability that they have is wider. So they can bowl from the first over to the 16th over, right? The only time you would do that with Akshar and Jadeja is really if it's a ragging pitch. So Akshar can bowl from what, the 5th over, probably 4th, 5th over. I think I've seen him bowl quite good from, and they can bowl to the 15th over on a normal wicket, 14th over on a normal wicket. So the range is not as big, and they're also very, very similar. Even if one's taller and straighter and one's a bit more round arm, they're very, very similar. Whereas you've got, a taller left arm finger spinner and like a taller attacking one and then a shorter defensive one. Whereas they're both really defensive ones in India's case as well. So yeah, I think all things considered, it's just a better pairing. Doesn't mean they're better bowlers. It doesn't mean they'll have more success in this tournament either. But it's very rare to have it. Like the India issue is greater with their pairing than the West Indies one. But where the India one comes massively back is both of theirs can bat. Akil Hassan can hold a bat, and has been a pinch blocker in this tournament, has hit some really good scores later on at times. And Moti is, probably more a specialist bowler. I mean, I don't think he's a dud with the bat. First class batting average of 21. And he's made some runs in T20 cricket as well, just having a look here. I've seen him bat enough to think he can hold a bat, but he's not Akshar Patel or Ravi Jadeja, right? And he's not even Akil Hassan. So that's where it comes back with India. And then fielding, Akshar and Jadeja are both really, one's a great fielder and one's certainly an above average fielder. Akil Hassan's probably above average fielder and Moti's probably not, I would say. So, overall, the package is still quite good for India. But if you're looking at purely of two left arm finger spinners to match together, it's an ideal situation. So it's not quite what would be a really good one. Sanas Jayasuriya and Suleiman Ben would be a really good one. Daniel Vittori and Rangana Harath could be a really good one. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not, more often than not, you probably have like a couple of guys that are pretty similar. Like Ashton Agar and Steve O'Keefe, let's say those two. You couldn't really play them together. They both want to bowl pretty much at the same time. And they're probably, not really adding to each other. Whereas I think here they can add, and they do have very different kinds of skills. So it's very lucky that West Indies have got that. They'd still rather have a wrist spinner that could do some of these things for them. If they had a wrist spinner of in Moti's position, they'd be laughing, absolutely laughing. Anyway, that's it for the scoreboard today. We will take a break. There will be no scoreboard tomorrow because there is no cricket tomorrow. So we will be back with the scoreboard on Thursday. No, wait, there won't be a scoreboard for like 2 days. Anyway, scoreboards will come back, and then when the Super 8s get kicked, when are the games again? I should know this, shouldn't I? There's no game. There's a game tomorrow. Yeah, so scoreboard's back on Thursday. I got that right the first time in my head and said it wrong out loud. I'm Jared Kimber. This is Scoreboard. Thank you very much, and I will see you again very, very soon.
Support us on Patreon and help us keep making our content. Join for exclusive perks like the AMAs, the live calls, and to chat with me directly on Discord. You can also enjoy ad-free content, early podcasts, and access to my emailer. Step up your cricket-style game with Bodyline t-shirts. Explore their exclusive player-themed t-shirts, including favourites like Virat Kohli, Kane Williamson, and Ben Stokes. They also have team-inspired designs and options for hardcore cricket nerds. Their collection offers something unique for every fan.